So I want to welcome all of you to this afternoon's general meeting of November 16th. We're going to call the meeting to order. We have attendance, a moment of silence, acceptance of the agenda. I'll read the rules of order. We'll do a follow-up from the September 26th general meeting. We'll take business from the floor. We're going to provide an update on DTS Priorities, an introduction to the Akwesasne Membership Board, and we'll provide updates, roundtable updates from the council. We have a resolution accepting the meeting minutes of the general meeting of September 26th. We have two announcements to make, and then that will adjourn our meeting. Unfortunately, the Akwesasne Membership Board is not able to be here today. It's conflicting schedule. They have a regular meeting today, so that number 7 will be removed. So this morning, this afternoon, Chief Toby Mitchell is out of the office. Out of the community this week and is not able to join us. So that is the agenda. Could I have a mover to accept? Moved by Julie, second by Tim. All in favor? All right, thank you. All right, I'll just ask for a moment of silence before we proceed any further in recognition of the members that we have lost over the last month and a bit since the last general meeting. Thank you very much. On behalf of Council, we extend our condolences to those affected by grief over the last 2 months. So the rules of order for today's, this afternoon's general meeting is that our meetings occur generally the last Thursday of the month, but given the fact that the Thursday of November is generally observed by some of the community as far as American Thanksgiving. Last month's general meeting was canceled due to other circumstances. We have general meetings generally the end of the month on Thursdays. Our meetings are an opportunity for community members to hear information and assist the council and have dialogue on issues that affect our community abroad. Our general meetings and focus meetings and special general meetings are open to members and probationary members only, so that's in accordance with Section 4.1 of the procedural regulations. Our meetings will begin today we're going to begin at approximately noon. We'll go for about 2 hours, and depending on the dialogue and other things, we may go further. Personal issues will not be dealt with in this public forum, so personal items can be dealt with on a one-to-one basis with either members of council or setting up an appointment speaking after the meeting. We ask that if you have any questions during the meeting, that you please raise your hand and I will acknowledge you and we'll start speaking in order. Also, we ask that any comments or questions please be relevant to the conversation we're having. For this this afternoon's meeting, we do have business from the floor first, so that it's going to be an opportunity to dialogue on a multitude of issues, but later on, we ask that they please speak to the agenda item. And any items that cannot be addressed at the meeting here today or that need follow-up, we will note that and report that back to you at the next general meeting, what the follow-up was from that action item or request of the council. So that is our rules of order for this afternoon's general meeting. We can now turn to the follow-up from the last general meeting. So there are packages at the back that do have the agenda in there, as well as the follow-up items that were requested at the previous general meeting of September 26th. Just noting that there is an individual in the lobby who is taking part of the survey for the natural gas, so there's an individual out there if you're interested in participating. And there are drinks and snacks at the back that we have made available as well, so feel free to get some of that. So we'll just go through the follow-up items that is in your package. There's a few attachments that go along with that. So the first follow-up item was to provide an audit update regarding the casino and Roundtable OLG funding. So there is a chart that is in your packages, a longer sheet that provides all of the monies that have been dispersed and received, dispersed from the OLG or casino Roundtable dollars. Now it's since its inception. This was a request from the community to report on how much has been paid or expended on what initiatives, whether it's within the MCA or within the community. So that's available for you. So the other item was provide a breakdown of funds and costs charged to the Akwesasne powwow. So that was a follow-up item as well, and that document is in there as well as part of the attachments in the package. The provide the arena ground rental policy was another follow-up item that was requested at the last general meeting, so that has been attached for you. The Akwesasne Financial Administration Law document that utilized the wording of council due to legal jargon to be looked up, so that the update on that in the most recent document, the wording of the councillor was not used. If there's a document that states the wording, please provide us with a strict documentation for remedy as pertains to the Akwesasne Financial Administration Law. So there was a question that was made at the general meeting. We're going to follow up with that individual for further clarification. So we request the Department of Technical Services to present the DTS priority list. So she comes in if you want to just give a quick on that, or is that today's presentation?
That's
okay. So today's presentation will give a bit more detail on that request. So the other item is a high-level update requested on the Nutfield tract for community members interested in land purchases and the taxes paid on the land. So there is a note in there from our Aboriginal Rights and Research Office in response to that question. So that is there for your follow-up, for your information. So provide the MCA budget to the community. So that presentation is a lengthy presentation, so we will schedule that likely in January at the next general meeting. A full presentation of the existing MCA budget that's established. Continue to look into the lands tribunal to deal with issues. Previous action item from other general meetings. That there's no update on that right now, so that's ongoing. There was a request on what some options may be available for land disputes. They're continuing to do research within the organization to see what other frameworks have been made available or tried. So that was a request. Provide an update on why lands were previously paid by the MCA to be surveyed. So just an update, MCA has not paid for surveys in the past. Practices over 20 years ago, yes, staff and certain community members were able to utilize a draft sketch as to approximate dimensions of land being transferred that were approved by the land owners and then forwarded to the land transfer for the new parcels of land to INAC. In turn, INAC would have in our can draft a survey, usually an RSO, and once a survey is registered, land transfer would get registered. This process is no longer accepted by INAC. So essentially, the process used to be easier to be able to hive off parcels of land. It's no longer that easy anymore. Surveys have to be done. So why is Mohawk Security no longer at CBSA as they were previously before the move? So update Mohawk Security Service was established in 1980 on an agreement between the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, the Government of Canada. The Government of Canada paid for this service when the port was located on Kawehno Island for the purpose of supporting CBSA operations and to support officers during incidents between community residents and CBSA personnel. When the Port of Cornwall was when the Cornwall Port of Entry was relocated off the island in 2009, service was reduced to the provisions of building and parameter security only, and a contract to these services expired on March 31st, 2013. So that's a bit of a background on where Mohawk security came from and then what has happened. So number 11, which is on the back side of that sheet that we're going over, request that the Office of Police Commission make reports available to the community. So that has been attached in your packages as well. Seaway Valley ambulance policy and how decisions are made. So this was a request last general meeting as to how the ambulance determines which hospital they bring the patient to. So there are 2 links on there. If you don't have the internet, let us know. We can print them off. They are just extensive documents that talks about the priority and what it takes, or what the policy is for ambulances making a determination of how far they should bring the patient. Number 13 is request assistance from the Akwesasne homemakers to bring the building up to code with the generators. So there was a request at the last general meeting. That's ongoing with that. There's some meetings being set up to understand a bit more of what the concern is. 14 is continue to work with the AFNQL taxation issue not being honored in certain parts of Quebec. So that was brought up because if you do shop in Valleyfield area, unless you have a status card from Ganawage, they won't accept your status card. So we are investigating and researching that a bit more, and that's a bit of an agreement that's been signed between Ganawage and Quebec. They seem to only honor those cards, but we'll get more information and work on that. 15, community members requested our support to continue support for families at the Kawehno Community Hospital. So update the Director of the Department of Health addressed the issue with the new Chief Executive Officer for the Kawehno Community Hospital. That item was followed up on. So those are your follow-up items from the last general meeting on September 26th, as requested, and since business from the floor is first off, so if there are anything deriving from these action items, we can discuss it business from the floor. So we've changed the format for today's general meeting, given that it's a wonderful Saturday afternoon and everybody's very ambitious to have dialogue on a number of issues. So we're going to have that now. So we open the floor to any items from the community, and I see you back there.
Stand so everybody can hear me. A little different standing on this side of the floor here. But I understand at a meeting in the past, I'm not sure exactly when, there was a discussion on the Akwesasne International Powwow. Some comments were made. I did watch that YouTube video, first time ever. Watched the YouTube video of that general meeting, so I got a gist of what was said and the discussion that was had. What I want to do, and I don't want to take too much time in case the person got an agenda on other business, so I'm going to try to allude to some of these things very quickly. A comment that was made, I don't mean any disrespect for that person making that comment, but it was said that the powwow was created in solidarity with Oka and Ganawage. That could perhaps be true for the first powwow that we ever had in the community, which was down at Cook Spaghetti Corner, as we know it, right? Maybe that was the case then, I'm not sure. But our powwow started in 2000. It's easy to remember, so that means this one that we just had was our 19th annual. We're hoping to get to at least 20, if not 25. Part of this discussion in my presentation, I'll lead to some of that. I do want to go back to my first comment about the original powwow starting in solidarity. I do want to enlighten how this powwow actually started. Some will probably recall, maybe at the table in the crowd here, back around that same time, 2000-ish, there was a lot of problems in our community. We know we're not immune to those social ills, but at the time this opioid crisis was really taking hold of our youth, and it was very front burner stuff. So I guess MCA kind of did an exercise, stop what you're doing kind of thing, and put attention to organization, at least into how we can best address this problem. A lot of meetings, every department represented at those meetings. Started out probably 100 people, next meeting 50, next meeting 25, next meeting, I guess we're not in crisis anymore. At the onset, what I did is I went to the schools and I talked to the youth themselves, not only about that particular agenda item, but the agenda in general. What it is you like and maybe even dislike about our community. We had some really good discussion eventually. At first, geez, the chief's coming to see us, what's going on, but after a while we had some really good dialogue. And a part of that dialogue, an individual, I'll never forget, he stood up and he says, why don't we have our own powwow? Everybody's got a powwow. Everybody. Ganawage, Six Nations, in between, you name it. Everybody's got a powwow, but we don't have a powwow. You ask us what we want culture. Culture's our identity. So why can't we have our own powwow? So I explained the process, the situation. I did start with that, trying to encourage them that your voice matters. Use your voice, don't be afraid to speak. And I'll definitely bring your concerns back to the council table, which I did in spades. So what I did say too is that's how this works. You're giving me marching orders. I'm a chief, I'm a district chief, and that's how things happen, including this general meeting. You sit there, you hear from the people, you have district meetings, you hear from the people, and hopefully they give you what I call marching orders. So I told them I got marching orders from you. Are you going to be on board with us when we start this? Yes, we will. So the youth have been there from that day, and they are with us even to this day. At the time, I'm not sure exactly at that time, but I know they have to have so many volunteer hours now, right, in Canada to graduate. So they're probably 95% of them are using our power to approve those hours, and that's great. So what I have done, I brought forward some numbers. I guess there's some discontent or concern out there in the community. Maybe questions. Some people are insistent or just convinced that this power is a money-making machine, generates so much funds or what have you. But I'm gonna offer some enlightenment, hopefully, on that. And I will start by saying, first of all, this year's budget was $550. That's an annual budget. That's what it takes every single year to put on the Akwesasne International Power. I don't want to go through every nook and cranny of those expenses, but I'll go through the revenue. That appears to be some of the questions, discontent, if you will. So from that budget, mind you, I will say for the record, the budget was $157,050. This year at the 11th hour, we got a new contract from MCA pertaining to the arena, which shot it up. We were paying $1,000 a year to rent the arena in the past. And we got a new contract that shot it up to $5,500. Now, why $1,000? Maybe I'll start with that. What I did at the time, I was sitting at that table when we created these things, and so I looked what is going on at the arena, similar to what we're trying to do. So what made the most sense at the time was a cross tournament. Team comes in, they rent the facility all weekend long, similar to what we want to do. So what are these lacrosse tournaments paying for this facility for that weekend, or what they need to do? So $1,000 seemed to be the reasonable ask, and it was that for some time. So anyway, I will use the 161,550 because, as we know, that's as we stand here today, that's what we know our budget is. So a lot of people, I guess, I would say, they get that misconception about the funding because they see the crowd, and people also need to know that probably half of those people are actually paying customers, if they put it that way. Elders getting free, children getting free. And we'll never change that. That's a beautiful thing to see. That was part and parcel of our intention, was to make that linkage. And I said that when I went to the schools. From the very young, the babies to our elders, and they're all there, and they all in droves to participate. So they get it free. So pretty much what you see there, as far as crowd, as far as cars, etc., probably less than half of that are actually paying to get in the door. So we do an annual sponsor program. Sorry if I'm going to take too much time here, but I do want to highlight just quickly. We had the National Aboriginal Hockey Championships here. People might remember that at the same time, 2000, 2001. And at that time, I created a sponsorship program. While I was the council chief, I said at the council table too that, there's a lot of people, a lot of entities, a lot of conglomerates that make an awful lot of money doing business in our community, if not directed with MCA. There's got to be a way that these people should be made, or at least asked to give something back to our community. So I created a sponsorship program for the hockey tournament, and it worked out pretty good. A lot of entities were very welcome. A lot of good discussion, dialogues, and sponsorship. And again, for the tournament not only to happen once, but the second as well. So the National Aboriginal Hockey Championships is still going strong. I'm proud to say it got to start right here in this community. So sponsorship program, part and parcel, and this is the number that we received this year, $74,500 from sponsors. That's a lot of work. But the powwow committee, our work doesn't end when the powwow's over. You know, we're constantly on the lookout. We're constantly doing what we got to do to assure that we can do this again next year. So 74,500. Ironically enough, that's exactly what it costs for our prize payout of our dancers and drummers. See, our powwow is a competition powwow. These dancers and drummers are coming from pretty far now, far and wide across the island to come here, and they're vying for monetary prizes, first, second, third, and fourth prize. So that actually, ironically enough, matched that figure, our sponsors. So from that figure, that brought us down to $87,050. That includes what we received from MCA and the Casino Rumble, which is $5,000. So that's inclusive of that. So from 87,050, we have the gate. Again, this goes back to the crowd, the sake of the crowd. But that generated $27,745 this year. That's probably an average crowd that we're getting now, despite the weather. We had some nasty weather the past 3-4 years now, but the people are still coming, you know. So gate 27,745, that brought it down to $59,305. Another avenue of revenue we have is craft vendors, $13,600. So that brings it down to $45,705. Another vein of revenue, dancer drummer registration at $3,530. That brings it down to $42,175. Food vendors, $3,000. That brings it down to $39,175. And the last, t-shirts, $10,040 take this year. That leaves us in the red at $38,135. So that's a snapshot of our finances. That's what we're up against every year. So that's where we're starting from for next year. In the hole at $38,000. For the sake of time, for the sake of more information, I did a little write-up some time ago, and I just made this decision just 5 minutes ago to allude to this, because it's a nice chronology, if you allow me to do that. And forgive me because I don't have my cheaters, but since I just made that decision. So here's a quick summation of the powwow, okay? The Akwesasne International Powwow has an operating budget of $161,550. Our powwow is a competition powwow, so dancers and drummers are vying for first, second, third, and fourth place prize monies. We are very comparable and competitive with surrounding powwows. We have committee members that are craft vendors themselves and are very active on the powwow trail. It is during participating at the many powwows near and far that we are able to gauge our own, and much of the administrative communications and work is done for our own powwow. Our powwow draws the best dancers, drummers, artisans, and food vendors at our powwows run. Sorry, I missed the line, see? Food vendors on the trail because they simply appreciate how they are treated and how professionally our powwow is run. That's their words. In our discussions with these folks before they depart, they are quick to offer accolades and express how they love Akwesasne Mohawk community and the people and the energy of our powwow. And of course, they will be back. Besides the dancers and drummers, there is our extended enumerated staff of head male and female, head veteran, head dance judges, head drum judges, tabulators, MC, etc., which are located under the big tent and responsible for the smooth operation of the competition end of our powwow. As this is a cultural celebration, we try to have invited guests in the spirit of sharing the respective culture. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that this year. Last year we had Joe Takoni and the Apache Crown Dancers. Maybe I'll speak to that a little bit. That was our way of addressing the social ills that we're dealing with in our community. As we know, our community's sick, cancer, you name it. We had some unfortunate incidents from the legal end of things, so that was our way of addressing it. We do get requests almost every year for what's called a blanket dance, where a blanket will go around and people will come and contribute. And we get that asked, and we said that we're going to do this. This was our way of dealing with it. They are healers. We brought them there for that reason as well. People really enjoyed them. Okay, then of course there is a tremendous intricate checklist of everything that goes into any event of this nature and magnitude, all with their own price tag, which adds up very quickly. There are three veins of income inclusive of sponsors, gate and vendors. For the most part, the finances immediately generated are recycled to offset the immediate costs of that immediate event. That makes sense. We have garnered and enjoy a very good relationship with the Bank of Montreal, whose staff volunteer to man our entrance gates and straight out handle the money. Makes sense that you have as many hands as you can handling the finances. This well-oiled machine has been in place almost from the onset. We have had some years, some good years, but we've also had some lean years, with weather playing a big toll. A lean year means we are going to have our work cut out for us the following year. Many will keep their eye on the weather forecast and decide whether to attend or not. The fact that we go inside the arena in case of bad weather at least assures we will have some semblance of a follow. We have been able to accumulate a minor goose egg throughout time, but I must impress that the Akwesasne international power will simply not occur without our sponsors. Our sponsorship program speaks to an entity being recognized and promoted in various ways, from a placard on our sponsorship wall, frequent announcements during the event, name associated with a dance category, opportunity to personally present your dance category champions, advertisement in the Power program, and our annual yawas on CQN radio and in Indian time. And that's exactly how we deal with MCA's contribution. It's a sponsorship that we do exactly everything here associated with the 5,000 we received from the single moment. This minor goose egg will not carry the day without our sponsors. The power will simply dissolve. From our humble beginnings and even into today, I jokingly state that I'm a beggar at power time. I'm convinced that people see me coming and they run and hide. When we first ventured down these uncharted waters, we were needed to beg and borrow for absolutely everything. We were constantly asking for favors and loans because we were absolutely bare bones. From this minor goose egg, we have begun accumulating over time the important things that we either borrowed before or simply did without. A good example of this is the golf carts to assist transporting our elders and disabled individuals from their vehicles into the power and back to their vehicles afterward. Mind you, we shopped around and purchased affordable used models, and these purchases were spread out over several years. So much so that the first one we bought is on its last leg. We can add two to that. We had one that was down and ran for about 5 minutes and just quit on us this year. We have three, but could maybe use two more. There are, of course, a servicing that must be done to assure that they're ready to go to the next one. Being that we use generators to have we had to have electrical panels to provide power to our food vendors to keep their food fresh. We constantly borrow these three of them from Yohahio, and because they are heavy, awkward to transport, they began deteriorating quickly, so we had to have our own. We spent a good amount. Okay, so that's kind of about what I wanted to allude to very quickly to capture some of the things that I thought we needed to. And I think it was straight out asked. I know it was asked at our district meeting, which I did go to present as well. Straight out asked, what exactly is it that you're asking, So I think straight out we're asking for more support. I think, and I'm convinced, and I've said it at the council table as well, that MCA is the local government body that should be front and center, especially when we have all of these guests coming to our community like that. Including, and again, we treat them accordingly at the $5,000 level. Of course, that's where we are with that. That's how we have to deal with it, as we do with everybody else, to be fair across the board. So it's not a big ask. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask, because there are there's two resolutions. There is an existing resolution that I understand is not being honored. It was a resolution back in 2003 that, and I'll just go to the final therefore be resolved, that the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne makes an annual donation of $5,000, money to be derived from Casino-Rama funds. That's 2003-04 MCR number 122, 2003. There was another MCR that was crafted to rescind that MCR. And I'll read, therefore be resolved that the annual contribution of $10,000 be allocated to the Akwesasne International Powwow with monies derived from Casino-Rama funds for the life of the powwow or the demise of the Casino-Rama funding source. Of course, therefore, further be resolved rescinds the previous numbers. So that's partly what we asked today as well, if not to enlighten us on what happened with this, what we know to be the existing legal binding contract, if you will, an MCR that speaks to $10,000 from Casino-Rama. It was presented past a duly convened council meeting by a quorum of council. My understanding is the Finance Committee made a determination of their own, at least while I was still sitting at the table, and they did ask that question at the table, and I got nowhere with my inquiries. So in my humble opinion, this MCR right here is the binding one. So we'll start with that. We ask that this resolution be honored. I don't think that's a big ask, unless there's a reason why it isn't, which we gladly hear. And I'm going to hand over to my friend here if he has anything more to add. Sorry to cover the time.
No, further to what the community members talked about is not only the honoring of the MCR 2010-2011-120 was also the question that arose at the last session. We talked about the inconsistency from the funding that was derived or being received since 2010, and then we identified that in 2014, 2015, it dropped to 5,000. And alluding to the question as to how and why that unilateral decision was made to not honor an MCR that is law in Akwesasne. So again, those questions yet to be asked. But also to further that is, given the states in which the powwow committee goes into every year in red, we ask also for receivement of payment of those funds that were reduced in the MCR. To that extent, it would be to the tune of $25,000 that was reduced from 2015 to 2019.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. So I believe it was asked about a resolution that was passed that says that the MCA will contribute annually $10,000 to the powwow, and now you're receiving $5,000. So when council passes resolutions pertaining to the same issue, the current one is what which stands. So by virtue of council accepting the budget annually, which is where the change happened, that the powwow receives $5,000 instead of $10,000, because the resolution that you referenced is older, the new one takes precedence over. So that's how the reduction happened from 10,000 to 5,000.
April.
Yes.
The Casino-Rama funds that you have, is it still in your policy that $150,000 of the $4 million goes to the community fund?
Yes.
Now, we requested a while back at one of the meetings, not this district, but general meetings, if that could be raised because of things like the arena, because of things that they need extra money in. Instead of having it at $150,000, why can't you raise it to $500,000? You know, that way people can have more access to the funds. Because it's not right that you're getting $4 million, $150,000 in the community, and the rest goes where? You know what I mean? So we suggested that, and it opens the door for opportunities to have more fun. But why can't you change that? Why can't you add more to projects that the community, you know, if they're looking for money, you don't have to cut them down.
So annually through the budgeting exercise is where the annual allocations come out of the Tsíothohrha dollars, specifically the community fund, the Akwesasne powwow, the 3 recreation centers. There's a few areas that have annual allocations, and when the resolution is passed to accept the budget, that gives the marching orders for that year.
Because if you look at the budget, there was a lot given to government staff, things that you're lacking with MCA. You're taking from the community and you're putting it back in your system. And it takes away from a lot of people that have projects in the reserve. I mean, it's something to consider. 150,000 doesn't go very far, especially when you got projects like the arena.
Yeah. So just in regards back to the powwow, I mean, that is the explanation. That is how we went from 10,000 annually to 5,000. I mean, I know that, you know, the resolution was specifically said the powwow will receive $10,000 annually for the life of the Tsíothohrha. About, as you alluded to, 5 years ago, that's when the council changed.
That would go against policy procedure, as far as I'm concerned. We did the process by a resolution. We did the process by a resolution to rescind the previous resolution. So if there's a change in mind, then another resolution should be had to rescind the other resolution.
So
I don't think a committee, regardless who sits on that committee, who it is, the feelings or thoughts or whatever, should supersede or usurp a resolution. Just unilaterally make that decision.
So just in context of that, the Finance Committee makes the recommendation to Council for acceptance, and I can assure you that all of the annual allocations for OLG is gone through at the time the budget is presented. So although the budget may have come forward and said $5,000 for the powwow, Council at that time was completely aware that it said $5,000. So procedural regulations under section 1119 says when 2 motions duly passed in accordance with the MCA procedure regulations deals with the same subject matter is contradictory way, the earlier motion or pertinent part of the earlier motion shall be deemed amended to the extent necessary to resolve the contradiction. So that's how the motion is the resolution. That by virtue of that section says that the one resolution has been now replaced by the budget resolution. Because what happens is you can't continue to have resolutions that may be from 1980 that contradict something now. There has to be a mechanism to cancel it. Yes?
Is there any mention in the new MCR that was passed that the other one is the same? Because there's no mention of it anyway. That means that MCR is still in the vote. Because you have to rescind that one before you not go to the new one.
Well, we rely on section 1119, the procedure regulation that says it's canceled out.
But that's just a procedure. There's a resolution that's voted on.
But it
Does
says-
that have more?
When 2 motions duly passed in accordance, so motions can be are resolutions or, you know, worded motions at the meeting. Yeah.
So how does that decision ultimately come about? Is that by council show of hands? I know the last general meeting that I used, every council member went down the line saying they support the power. So how was that determination made? Was it a form of council that voted to do exactly what you just read?
Well, it would have been 5 years ago. I don't recall what the discussion was at that time. I'd have to take a look. I mean, I know that, we've outlined I outlined on behalf of council at the last meeting, what some of the current concerns we've had. You have just provided us with a presentation that has addressed a number of those issues. We can, take it back for consideration. I'm just giving you the technical explanation as to how it went from 10 to 5. Ultimately, it's up to council if they want to, in the next budgeting cycle, which will be starting now, allocate it back to $10,000 or whatever amount.
Still having trouble with that. I would have been on council 5 years ago. I don't recall that discussion being had about that, again, what you just read to or alluded to. I don't know if any of the council members really, or maybe it's a good exercise for a council to take that into consideration for another day, then maybe another agenda. I don't remember that particular process being presented at the council table either.
Well, fair
If it's
enough.
not council, let me ask, sorry, who then, if not council, would have the ultimate authority to make that ultimate decision on whatever you just read?
So the procedure regulations is accepted by council, it's how we conduct our business, right? So I'm going by 5 years because you just said that there's a retro pay of $25,000. So $5,000 every year is 5 years. But, you know, I would think that after the first year of reduction from 10 to 5, likely the powwow committee brought it forward to council at that time. So members were probably made available, were notified that, hey, last year you gave us 10, now you're giving us 5, what's going on? So, I mean, council has over the last 5 years had the ability to increase it back up, it just hasn't happened.
Powwow committee sitting right here, we don't recollect?
You don't recollect that you're paying them from 10 to 5?
I mean, besides that, I mean, you said you must have heard from the committee that made you make that decision, unless I heard you wrong.
What I've said is that when the powwow committee went from 10,000 one year to 5,000, likely you or one of the committee members raised it with council and said, hey, this year's contribution is $5,000, not 10, what happened? If you didn't say anything for 5 years, is that what you're saying?
Oh, no. Okay.
No, so council would, and my point is council would have been made aware that the reduction happened and, you know.
Well, I caught it.
Yeah.
You know that yourself.
Yeah, no, and that's what
I
I'm
didn't
saying.
think about that at the council table.
Yeah, so council has the ability to raise it back to $10,000 at this point. I mean, based on what you're saying, they can be considered in going forward. But the resolution that was passed that said 10,000 annually has been virtually rescinded based on the process.
Is there a document that indicates the rescindment of?
Yeah, the procedural regulation says that, section 1119 of the procedural regulations.
Is that a public document?
Well, we can provide that. Yeah. So I don't know if any members want to add anything more. I'm providing clarity. I mean, we did make a request to the Akwesasne powwow to meet with council at one of our council meetings. There has been no response, but the information that likely would have been discussed is what you presented to us in the community today. So thank you for that.
Again, going back to the general meeting in past, comment made by yourself was that this is the people's money, the people need to get a report, so that's why we're here. I guess the people.
No, absolutely.
And we're not going to go in front of council because I think that's where this needs to be happening.
No, absolutely. I mean, we've outlined the things, like I said, that I've heard over, I guess, the last 5 years since that has changed. And if, you know, if the community is satisfied, we can, you know, reconsider.
Thank you for coming forward today to have this discussion. For both of you, I had a brief meeting with you when the last general meeting was canceled, and I asked that you come to council table and sit and have dialogue and discussion. Find that information you're looking for, have concrete discussion. And I provided that to my staff who sent requests out to you for that meeting, and they had not received any reply. But yet we're sitting here today again and still not going to be able to give you concrete answers because we haven't sat down and had the dialogue to iron things out. I would really appreciate if you would take the time and have that meeting with us so we can all sit as a council and your committee and start hashing these things out. Because it goes beyond the $5,000. You know, because council does a lot of in-kind contribution to the powwow that's above $5,000. So do you want the 10,000 cash, or do you want 5,000 plus all the in-kind that goes above 10,000 total? Those are things we need to talk about, and I really am asking that, you know, you consider making that appointment with us, and let's sit down and resolve this issue.
So does that mean if you increase it back to the 10,000 that you're not going to do the in-kind?
We can have that discussion. Do we come to a happy medium that we do both? That's what I'm saying.
just kind of sounds like you're putting him on the spot to make a choice on either he asks for it to increase 10,000 and you're gonna reduce the
No,
in-kind
I
services,
asked him,
or he accepts the 5,000, accepts the in-kind services.
that's not what I'm asking,
Okay.
and that's not what I'm putting him on the spot for. I'm putting him on the spot to, let's have a meeting and real dialogue and sit down and have these discussions.
I have the lawyer first.
As soon as there were plans were approved to get the arena going, there was a lot of talk around the community all the time about a powwow, about activity, and everybody settled on lacrosse. It's going to be the major one, right? It turns out it's lacrosse and hockey, which is really great, right? And the powwow was talked about over a lot of years. Even now, it's talked about now by the community, even though there's a powwow going, right? And a lot of the community members still don't think it's got to where it's supposed to get, right? I mean, it's making money and all of that, but we got to remember that it's supposed to be part of the community, right? And right now, because it's young, everybody is concerned about the money. Like, they're concerned about the money they have to put out in order to make the powwow work. And the contributions, you're one of the, what is it called? Benefactor? A benefactor? The person that gives money, right? Sponsor? Yeah, a sponsor, right? You're concerned about how much you have to sponsor, right? Those kind of things. And basically the powwow here is still new, right? And there's still got, and there's always going to be some misgivings. We've got to work that out. Right? Some people think that, I'm sorry that, they're control freaks, right? That they're separating it from the community, right? But I also hear good things about them. It's like we're getting class acts here, but boy, why does it have to cost so much money? Right? And those are the things that we got to think about, right? But it's got to be a big discussion in the community, just like it was before. Right, not just one topic here, right? And who are the owners? Is there an owner to this? Is it the community? Are they doing it on behalf of the community? Right? Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, how is that going to work? How's that sort of I'm losing it. I'm losing my what is it called there? I'm losing my government kind of talk, how a band counselor talks, right? That kind of stuff. I'm getting a little grassy roots there. But it's like buzzwords, all those kind of things we gotta get away from. It's like normal government talk. You gotta start talking to the community again, right? Because there's a lot of excitement over the powwow, especially from the young people, and there's a lot of animosity, right? That goes on at the same time, right? But in the end, right, it's pretty successful, right? But in the end, there's always a talk like this. We're short on this, we're short on that. That's something that you got to revisit. The community really has to revisit, because that's our place. It was hard fought, to get that place, right? It's a real class act. It's like I'm an elder on an elders committee. I get to go to the turtle room. I get to sit down, right? And I get to look outside, right? And I look at Cornwall and I say, that could be ours. Little fantasy here and there.
So, we'll just go to Larry first. And then.
Getting loiditis. I wanted to look back to my original comment about it not being an unreasonable ask, and I will say, I think people know that. And Romaine alluded to that last general meeting, but the avenues of recourse that are 5 of them. Culture is high on that agenda item, one of the agenda items is culture. I don't know if council can sit there and be thought about what to do for culture in its environment. But culture is a strong component of that fund, $4 million. And as far as we know, $5,000 of that is going to our cultural celebration. And going back further about what you said, we're recognized across Ontario. We're top 10, I think we're at number 6 or so at the best festival, not just powwow, festivals across Ontario. We're close behind Ribfest in Toronto, so we hold that distinction. But I did want to ask council, who has seen or read the contract, the new contract from the arena to the powwow? Did you find it a very aggravating, frustrating read as I did?
It required a lot of
It was
discussion.
illegal, right? I think it needed a lawyer sitting next to it. Yeah, very frustrating read to try to really have to read the paragraphs over and over a couple of times. That's overkill. I think we got to stop doing that a little bit. Get so lawyerized in a simple thing like a contract for a follow. 5 pages of therefore, what therefore, all that crazy language. It was overwhelming to try to read and digest.
So I would say that I want to acknowledge and say thank you for you provided some financial numbers, some context to the history of the powwow, some attendance numbers that's been helpful. I would say that we need to have a meeting with the powwow committee and either a delegation of council or council support, just to go through these things. We have already communicated that message before the powwow, when the contract issue came up. It's absolutely communicated at the last general meeting, and we're communicating it again. Let's have a meeting to go through the issues. Let's not wait till 1st of September when the powwow is happening in a week. So I put that back out there. I mean, the community has heard your report that you have provided, which we thank you for, and let's have that meeting and work it out from there. I mean, I don't. In the interest of time, I'm not sure that we should, we shouldn't be in a position where we're negotiating in this form of what this is going to look like, right?
Well, Grand Chief, I've sat in meetings past where people come to the general meeting as we are now. At that same time, I spoke up back when the opioid crisis was happening. An individual came to a council meeting in Snaihne with support, and they walked out of there with $150,000 guarantee. Well, I'm not taking any shots at anybody else's idea of what they thought about the time, but that can be had at a meeting like this too. But I do want to say, and I'll stop after this, but I think people need to understand too, it's not just that money. It's not always the money. That's why I asked about the contract. Who read it? Because there was a lot of changes. That's why this threw us for such a loop. We went through the process of, if anybody can visualize the arena, the garages in the back. After that garage, there was a ditch. There was a big ditch, overgrown with weeds, unsightly, what have you. So with collaboration of DTS and arena manager, we got the green light, we got the blessing to level that off so we can put some storage there. We used those train train bins to store what we had. Mind you, a lot of it, we take a lot of stuff to our own homes. But that is taken off the table now. Either you're going to pay for the rental of that now, or you're going to get those $10. And I spoke to Bank of Montreal earlier. They always had a secure room where we could take the money and they could secure the place. That's been taken off the table. Why, I don't know. But we, again, running around trying to get that taken care of at the call of time, mind you. Okay, we were given a room. We thought, hey, this is great. Thanks, man. Handshake. Thanks. But then again, we get a bill. We get a bill for that room afterwards. So there's stuff like that really just chopped at us. And for the record, I will say, I don't ever recall us as a committee having a discussion like we've had in the recent past, so close to saying, maybe that's it. Maybe it's over. We had a good run, pull the plug, let's be proud of what we did. and let's get back to our normal lives. We've never had that discussion as much as we had lately because of all these other things that are happening. Mind you, that's stress time, huh? Powwow time, stress time. Week before powwow, stress time. So we get all this other stuff that we have to deal with.
Yeah, so I want to conclude this discussion because we do have other members of the community that would likely want to speak about other things, but the powwow occurs the same time every year, and that's approximately 8 months from now. So let's not wait to the 7th or 6th or 7th month. Let's have that meeting. It will be either a council delegation, and we can work through that, right? We can go from there. I'm not comfortable negotiating terms of an agreement. That those issues that you've raised are not within our purview. They're likely with administration, but it's something that we can work towards. Yes.
Just on a different note, I was asked to join the powwow committee back in 2007. That's when it was picking up quite a bit. A lot of times our powwow is given back to the community. When I first began in 2007, we were getting roughly about 10 to 15 students who were volunteering their time to put in a powwow. And today in 2019, we had 35 to 45 students who got their volunteer hours. And our community is dependent on that. Our students are dependent on those community service hours to graduate. I had one individual about 3 years back. He helped me right from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He got his 43.7 hours in the powwow weekend. And he still continues to this day to come back to help us. So, and not only that, but powwow also gives back to the students when they contribute a scholarship. So a $1,000 scholarship to a Canadian student and also a $1,000 scholarship to a U.S. student. So, besides all the venues with the vendors and different community members who are able to access that as well. So we give
Thank you for that insight. Yeah.
I think you should have like a special meeting sometime during the winter or something like that, when things quiet down a little bit, right? About the powwow, right? And involve the community, right? On a very small budget, right? The powwow started, and there was a lot of students, so-called students, right? They didn't depend on it for, to go on their record, They just volunteered. It started off with just a couple of kids and then their friends. What are you doing? Oh, we're picking up garbage, right? Right through the night, right? They were picking up cigarette butts, right? When the people came in, the people selling stuff, what do they call those? Vendors, right? When the vendors came in, right? It's like they looked down and right away they commented to the powwow people that it's so clean here. There's not even a cigarette butt. That's how much pride the community had with it when it was just starting out. It's got to be that way every time, because you're host to a lot of people. You're host to the world, just about. Nowadays that's what it is. Huh? So everything's got to be like that, and that same kind of dedication that they just got all by themselves. They already had that, right? Next thing you know, there's a lot of kids there that love doing that kind of work, and their parents, saw them out there picking up garbage, helping out, delivering drink, all of those things. It was all free, right, for them, right? It was because they had that kind of a spirit. They wanted this thing to work. And that's what you need. That's what you need again. It's not just the business part, right? It's got to be that, that excitement that you're proud to be here. That's all.
And just to add to that, one last thing is that our children are proud that they're the ones that are running our powwow. Our powwow is proud to say that we're run by student volunteers. No other powwow can say that.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, and we will reach out and get this worked out, because I can tell you that council is supportive of the powwow, and I know that it's $5,000 that we're talking about here, but we do see the value in the powwow being had in Akwesasne. It's not monetary, it's much more than that. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on. Are there any other items that the community wishes to speak? Yes.
Where did the funds for your salary increases come from?
So the allocation that supports Mohawk government just comes from the general operating fund of the Mohawk Council.
Meaning,
The program support.
so it comes from our programs?
Other program support to a certain degree, and then just overall revenues.
What do you mean overall revenues?
Because through the contributions we have with the government, the money's pooled, certain monies.
Say specifically to go to executive, council staff or council,
There,
funding?
so there's a system whereby the portfolios pay a fee, the portfolio or departments pay a portfolio fee that supports the Mohawk government department, and there's a line item in the contribution agreement that supports the council as well. But overall, the organization supports the department.
So
There's
why-
there's not enough revenue to support the expense.
Well, how is there so much revenue that each person can get on near $15,000 per year sitting there? And another thing, who got a doctorate? Did someone get a doctorate recently to, to give some kind of a reason why you're getting an increase in pay? This is very, very upsetting to me. $15,000 is a lot of money. I'm living on fixed income of near that. That's an insult to me. And you all gave yourself $15,000. I know what you went through the PSA. That's just, anybody can write that out. As long as you've got the executive so-called power. But for me, as a community member, that's insulting. I'm barely living on $15,000, $16,000 a year. And you all gave yourselves $15,000 a year raise. What about the others? No, I see about you doing a whole lot with our monies. I don't understand that. And another thing, you're getting all this money, well, maybe you all can chip in to give me about $400 so I can get my teeth fixed. I'm getting a refusal, I've already been told. I'm getting a refusal to get dental work done, which is about $300, near $400. I need that. And I'm getting refused? What's going on here? What's going on here? I got to beg to get dental work done, and you guys get $15,000. Tell me, is that fair? And they're denying me. Come on. It's no... as a matter of fact, I would like at this meeting, this is why I came, this is very, very insulting. All the elders should be insulted. All the people, the young people that are barely surviving, low income, youth, young families that are trying to survive out here. It's an embarrassment. You guys are an embarrassment. To the point where I would like my per capita. I have no confidence in you guys anymore. Can't do something as simple as approve a dental. I want my per capita. I'll take care of my own dental. I'll take care of all the bills that I need to take care of. From what the figures that are going out, it's anywhere between $10,000 and $13,000 per person in this room and in the whole community. That's the money that goes into this pot that they're able to allocate this kind of money to themselves. You just said it's coming out of program monies. Part of that money is mine, hers, his. Well, I want my share, and I want it all. This is just a meeting where I'm informing you. I'm informing council. I have no confidence. Cannot take care of simple things. And I've heard recently from my dentist that you haven't even paid the bill for the community. And now that's why they're very leery as to, this is not right. We're talking health. You guys can't gotta be 75? No, I want my per capita. And I want, it's on record. Legally, if we have to go that route, and I'm sure we will, you will be receiving a letter from me. And anybody else if you guys are happy, then just keep giving your money to the council. Just keep, don't say a word. But I'm tired. I'm tired of this. So, y'all gonna chip in for my desert work? That's my thing.
Okay, thank you.
And 15,000, that's ludicrous. What do you think we are stupid? How do we go, that has to be reversed somehow. I know you've had people at other meetings talking about, well, how come this, how come that? We're the community. You're shitting on us. It's an embarrassment. You know? So give me my money. I'll take care of my own business. I'll pay my own bills. That's what I want you guys. Give me my cut. And I want the trust, some of that trust money too. Whatever money's going through, because you're going to use it all on yourself and your salary and equipment. Whatever. You know, I want my share of trust money, and I want my per capita that you guys are spending on yourself, not me.
Okay. Well, we can have that conversation about that when we submit it in writing, and we can take a look at
It
what.
will be coming.
Okay, thank you very much. David?
Yeah, I'm not gonna bring up that 5.2 of the Indian Act again. I've brought that up over and over. 5.2 and the membership. Challenging the membership code versus Indian registration. I'm not gonna bring that up. I brought this up 100 times over. And as far as I'm concerned, I was born and brought up with the Iroquois of St. Regis, and that's where I'm staying. I'm still registered in Ottawa, and I'm staying that way. But I want to know something about, here I wrote it down on my pad. Section 22 of the Indian Act states, the minister may issue to an Indian who is lawfully, the word lawfully is in here, the minister may issue to an Indian who is lawfully in possession of land in a reserve a certificate to be called a certificate of possession as evidence of their right to their possession of the land described therein. Now this here, section 22, the certificate of possession, is a lawful document that you apply and you get it from the Minister of Indian Affairs. Now, we just recently had a resident here on the island. After 37 years, somebody walked in and said, half of your property is mine. And he's been at the OBS office, he's been everywhere, and not the council themselves will sit down and try and resolve this problem. So I want to know, right now I have 2 certificates of possession. One says the Iroquois of St. Regis, lot 104, my lot number. I got 5 CPs. The other one I have is the Mohawk Council. The Mohawks of Akwesasne took my lawfully certificate of possession, which was lawfully issued to me, and changed the name on it and put the Mohawks of Akwesasne without consulting me. So as far as I'm concerned, someone broke the law, they didn't consult me, and I want to know what year you made that transfer. If you could look into it. When did they take my land? Because I still have the both certificates in both names. And I'm still registered as an Iroquois of St. Regis. So I want to know when, who did this? Which lawyer or who behind took my land and put me under their Mohawks of Akwesasne? Because I'm at the government level now. I'm going to fight them. One way or the other, I'm going to fight the government on this. And not just me, other people. But I'm just saying, could you find out who was behind taking my certificate of possession and allowing them to put me under something else? If they insulted me, if they consulted with me and said, you have a lawful document, we're having a membership, we want to transfer land. You know, nobody consults. They just go ahead and, oh, tomorrow you're this, tomorrow you're that. They're taking not just your identity, everybody has a right to self-identity and self-determination. That's not only the United Nations Declaration, it's also, Charter of Rights, 15 Charter Rights of Freedom Protection. You have so many protections as an Indian for your own determination and membership according to your culture, your traditions. They have no business taking you and saying, you're this next week without consulting you. And they said, well, we passed a membership code. A code has nothing to do with it. I can't make you a member of something without talking to you. Said, oh, we went house to house, we got a few people that agreed we should have our own membership code. Well, when you have a right to self-determination, that's up to you to decide. I don't want to be in Iroquois St. Richard's anymore. I'll call Ottawa and I'll get myself off the registration. Now I'll be a member of the Mohawks of Akwesasne. You see, it's a big deal. And people, they look at it and they say, well, like Vince said, what's the difference? It doesn't matter. Just to me, that's my identity. I was brought up the Iroquois way, with the trapping, with the fishing, with the shit houses, with the lanterns. Everything that Iroquois did when we were younger. We struggled. We fought like hell to survive. And we don't need someone to say, well, you're this now. No. We had gill nets. We had fish boxing. We had making baskets, pounding logs, lacrosse sticks. Everything we did as an Iroquois made us proud to who we were. And I've been after you over and over again. I'd like to know who made that decision to say that. I know you have a resolution of 85. I have that resolution. That 1985 resolution said, the Iroquois of St. Regis are passing a resolution that from now on will be known as the Mohawks of Akwesasne, and the people will be Mohawks of Akwesasne. Who decides that? Now, if you look at the resolution, it was made by the Iroquois of St. Regis. Mike Mitchell, Roy knows he was on it. Bozo Benedict, Yvonne Leaf, and Bill Sunday. All of a sudden, they pass us and it says, oh, now you're all what we want you to be. I said, you can't do that. You have to consult the people. You can't just change their identity because you feel like it. And I asked about the resolution over and over again. Who decided? Did the people at the time they elected Mike Mitchell and the crew, did they vote to have their identity disrupted, their identity changed? Nobody would do that. So why did the council turn around and say, oh, we're the chief and council, we'll just send the resolution? I got feedback from a guy named Leaf and also Andy Doherty from the Ottawa government. And they said it's only a resolution is not a legislative requirement to make a name change. All it is it comes from a resolution from chief and council. We've made those changes. Okay, if it was that easy, why am I still registered? I went up in February 2017. A bunch of us went to Ottawa. Ottawa pushed out, said you got a 4-digit band number, and you're still in Iroquois St. Regis. So we're all registered. But they changed the name of the band to the Mohawks of Akwesasne. So as far as I'm concerned, from 1985 forward, the people that are registered as a Mohawk of Akwesasne are your membership. You can't just roll people over and say, this is what you are. He could have said, we're all bullfrogs and Quebec or something. Everybody said, oh, well, they made a decision. You know what I mean? But they mess with my identity, and I have a right to self-determination. I'm protected by many, many Indian rights, all our rights. They call them indigenous rights. They want you to move away from the way Indian. So we have Indian Act, Indian Band Council, Indian this, Indian that. Constitution says Indian. 9124, all Indians. Land and Indians, what is it? 9124, come on, Andrew. You should know that.
I thought I said it.
Indians and land reserved for Indians. Indians and land reserved for Indians. That's in the Constitution. 35 of the Constitution, right? Aboriginal refers to Inuit, Métis, and Indian. It's all in the Constitution. They didn't get away from the way Indians. They want you to think the way they think. Aboriginal affairs, Indigenous affairs. They're moving away from the word. They're trying to take all your rights away. But anyway, my question is, I'd like to know who had the authority. Because this is a lawful document. A certificate of possession is lawfully issued by the minister. Now, who gave permission, which lawyer or who gave permission to take my document, take my land and transfer it into someone else. That's what I want to know, because I still have the two of them. I got the same land, Iroquois of St. Regis, Mohawks of Akwesasne. And I asked, where am I registered? I went up to 10 Wellington Street. You're an Iroquois of St. Regis. You were registered that way from day one. Your parents are on it, your grandparents. So I never changed my identity. But I want to know, what can I do? I want my land back. And I want my land out of the jurisdiction and control of the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, and I want my jurisdiction of my land put back in the Iroquois of St. Regis. I called Brantford, Shannon Doyle, and I was on the phone 2 hours. The guy didn't know what to say when we got done. All he said was, well, we met with council, and council says, well, we decide we take care of our own problem, which is not true. They disrespect council. Canada has no respect for you at all, or your voices. All they do is accept some problems and this and that. I've been there. I went up to Ottawa. I've dealt with them assholes up there, and I'm telling you, they have no respect. As an Indian, we have a lot of rights, and they're going to answer to this. But if you can help me find out why they took my land away and put it in the jurisdiction control. If you're going to move with self-government, you're going to move with the land sectorial agreement, you're going to move with all these things forward. I want to know why you're involving me, and I never answered to any of this. So if you can, find out, would you please? Find out who changed it, because I want to know. And what kind of documents gave them the right to not only change my identity of self-determination, but also to change my land. If you don't mind.
All right, we will note that, and we'll do some research and report that back to the general meeting as to how that happened and what consultation was done to make that.
Yeah, because I want it back. I want it back. I'm the Indian here. I'm the one that invested a lot of my time, a lot of my money, and I protected my family. I did a lot of work to take care of my family. And I don't need someone saying, no, this is how you're going to live. This is what you're going to do. No freaking way. You know, I'll fight.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Dave, he had some concern, but I don't think it's such a big deal if you get your head around it, right? And, you know, yeah, a lot of people want to be Iroquois of St. Regis, right? A lot of people want to be Mohawk. But the thing is, a lot of our younger people think they're Mohawk. And it's only because that's what they were taught, right? And the other reason is because whoever they get the information from doesn't know their history, right? And that's the biggest important part of Akwesasne. Most of us don't know our own history, right? And I don't know if it's because we got a land claims department now, right? That does everything. Oh, sorry. That does everything, or you know, we're just not interested, right? And I think, like, and there's a lot of historians sort of like milling around. There's books about Akwesasne, right? You know, there was one, 2007, it was called Wilderness Empire, 2017. A local guy wrote it, right? And he got to interview, well, he interviewed me a little bit, but he interviewed my dad, right, who has a long, and, you know, people in Ganawage, right, all the controversial figures in Ganawage, Six Nations, right, all around, right? His name is Michael Hart. He used to be a conservation officer, Northern Ontario all the way down here, and he was our native liaison, right? A really nice guy, right? And he's retired now, so he decided to sit down and write a book, right? And it got published, right? And he explains why Akwesasne is the way it is, right? Without having to, you know, it's like politicize anything. It's just like sort of just the way it was. Why there's traditional people, why there's Christianity, you know, all of those things. And it's the people that are actually explaining why, like the people that he interviewed explaining why it's like that, right? And he'd be a good guy to come down here. He's only in Brockville, right? His daughter is the ambassador of, or assistant ambassador of that country that was pushing out all kinds of Burma. It used to be called Burma, now it's called something else. Right next to India, right? And, right? It used to be called Burma. That's where part of the Japanese-American War was fought, right? In Burma, right? And he's, I think, a deputy ambassador or something over there, right? So, you know, he's a smart guy. He's a smart one. You know what I mean? It's kind of like he's passing it down kind of thing, but he's really honest about it, right? And he's easy to get along with. Henry knew him, right? But they didn't, you know, they didn't really work with each other, but, you know. But he's a good guy. Michael Hart, easy to find.
Right. Thank you.
Abram,
Yes.
following up on Nona's discussion as far as the $15,000 or whatever, we were at the district meeting and I think somebody mentioned that it was a service agreement? Service agreement? Whatever that means.
Yeah. So I'll just, so in 2016, council established a governance committee to examine the framework in which council operates with. The governance committee was the government support manager, the executive director, represented from the Justice Department, Nation Building, and had 3 of the district chiefs on there as well as advisory. So at that time, the work began then looking at what at the time was the working conditions regulations. That's sort of a document that defines the relationship between the organization and the chief individual. Over the last several years, we've been looking at ways of looking at the framework in which council operates under. So previously, councils have always operated like employees of the organization, and knowing that the expectations of the members of council is not that of an employee, but the relationship in that document defines sick time, what they call flex time, things like that. And those are characteristics of a employee.
That's right. That's right.
But council is not employees, right? So the executive director and the government support manager had been doing research on it and started a series of presentations in January 2018 at the general meeting in held. There will be 2 to 3 focus meetings on what is called the political service agreement that took away those characteristics of being an employee. Because council is not an employee. Council, the expectations of the community is not that you show up and punch in at 5 o'clock, or punch in at 9 o'clock and leave at 5 o'clock. That the responsibilities are much greater than that, and the whole aspect of 24/7 is more of a reality than being an employee. So the committee had done presentations to the community, heard back what the community had said, and made recommendation to this council for the implementation of a political service agreement. At that time, that was passed in September of this year. It did include changing the agreement of making council less employees and more political bodies. There's a clear definition of more requirements of reporting back to the community. And it also incorporates that council must abide by the ethical conduct law, the election law, the terms of reference for the portfolios, so what your responsibilities are as a portfolio, as well as the procedural regulations, which is how you operate. So lots of documents in the past. It's now incorporated into one document, and council accepted that at the time, and which is now. There was an increase in the salaries. So prior to that, there had been no increase for the last 12 years, and the past increases were in about 2000, and in 2007, that increases were done.
So is there benefits out of this?
There are no, the only benefits would be is pension. That's it. So there's no accrual of vacation, there's no accrual of sick, so it really defines, and there's no accrual of flex time. So that's what led to the comments that were made. The recommendation from administration was that they implement these agreements, and council is.
Wow. Because a lot of times, I was looking at a lot of documents, and when you refer to 15 and you refer to 59, a lot of the reserves you look at, like on Oahu, Six Nations, it's like $50 million operation. But here it's double that. Everything is because of 2 federal Indian reservations. So they service, that's why you're probably getting 110 million. It's like for 2 federal reserves. The services for 2 federal reserves. Everything is because of 2 reserves. There was a guy in Manitoba, he was overlooking the chief. There was 4 small communities. He was the chief overlooking all of them. And whatever he did, he paid himself $360,000 a year. And he says, I'm worth that because now I have to service 4 little reserves. You see what I'm saying? So I wonder if a lot has to do with the funding here because of 2 federal reserves.
Well, currently the total budget of the Mohawk Council is around $110 million. And to operate all of the services that comes from the federal government, the provincial governments, there is some revenue generated via leases, but most of it is government funding. The reality is, though, is that there are 12 members of council elected by the community, and we are trying to institute stronger governance structures to support government involvement, non-administrators. Historically, these positions have been known as administrators, i.e., have a service cut off, go to the chief, back in the day, need a job, go to the chief, welfare, go to the chief. These are not realities of how the organization works anymore. So we're trying to ensure that the governance structure supports political leaders who are governors, not administrators. One of the challenges has been is recruitment and retention of people with qualities and backgrounds to sit in these positions. And doing that at $60,000, you can be a manager within the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne where you do work 9 to 5. You have paid leave, you're sick, the road's closed, the MCA's closed down, that are making $65,000. So in the grander scheme of things, to expect people that have, an educational background or more of an experienced background to lead positions in the organization, to run for council and make less, it's not always happening, right? That's one of the factors. I think that not long term, I hope in the next, within the next 3 years, council shrinks. That will also have a cost savings as well. But at this point, we have been having issues with changing the election law, right? That was one of the questions before. Should there be 12 members? Hopefully the new chart, the new path to change the election law, may be successful in those areas. May have a grade 12, maybe it is a bachelor. I don't know. These are not our decisions, right? But those are incorporated in the Akwesasne election law. So
those people you're talking about making that kind of money, they have to have a lot of credentials. They have to have a bachelor's degree. They have to have PhD.
I would
say, council coming to election, what's their criteria? What is that background?
The criteria for council is that you live in the district, that you're 18 years old. I mean, one would argue that, right? So we're trying to build different areas where these things will become, they will align. I mean, we have just instituted this year that we will be now, starting January, publishing what we call the Akwesasne Sunshine. Because we want the community to know who in the organization makes over $100,000. And I will tell you, there's quite a few people that do it, right? And we in order to retain and attract people, we have to have the salaries within the organization and within council. These are some of the factors all included.
If you're going to mirror that sunshine list, that's $100,000 a year. Usually that's a list of people who get taxed at about a 30%, 35% rate.
Take home would be less.
So if we're comparing apples to apples here, then maybe that threshold should be lower, like 70,000.
Well, this will be the first year we publish it. We will feel it and hear it from the community and the organization. I mean, it's a consideration. But yeah. Sure. Okay. Are there any other things that we want to talk about from the community perspective? Yes.
I want somebody else to speak besides you. I mean, you're getting $75,000 a year and you can't say something? Come on now.
Now, there are reports here in our district meetings.
Yeah, but what if I can't read? What is a report?
Well, then
I can read, but what if somebody can't? What is a report?
I appreciate that, and as the chairperson, my responsibility. Okay, thank you, noted, once again. Okay, so we do have a yes. Okay.
Question for Connie. Connie, I want to know when your next court date is for your ethical conduct charge?
January 27th or 28th, I was provided with the other day from my legal. 27th or 28th. I gave 2 dates, should one not be available.
Do you
Okay.
make that public so that people will know?
I don't know.
All right, I believe this matter is more of a matter between individuals, so we'll make your statements, you ask some questions, or... Okay, so I am conscious that it is 1:45. We do have a guest here that a member of the community that also is here to do a quick presentation, so I do want to turn to that. If there are other questions of council, we are here after the meeting, so I will give an opportunity there to have that. But I do want to turn to Mr. Joe Francis here on behalf of the Department of Technical Services, just to go through a bit of some of the capital project priorities that we have coming up with the Mohawk Council over the next couple of years.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Very interesting discussions. I like to think that what I run and what I do for the community is part of the reason why a lot of money goes in different directions. Strategic planning. I'm sorry, I'm the blockade mom. So, part of the Department of Technical Services, for those you don't know, I'm the acting director for Department of Technical Services right now. I've been in that capacity. This coming March will be 2 years. Our director right now is under the weather, and we're hoping for his recovery, and he can come back and save me in council. But I'm still moving on with all the projects that we had on the list that wanted to be developed as well as implemented based on what the direction of the community wanted, as well as what council's directions were. So in your handout, I believe you were given a smaller version of this document. We're talking the calls related to water systems, road systems, building condition, the types of repairs that we need to maintain the facilities and infrastructure that we have today. Adult education, building example, Akwesasne, Tsíothohrha, recreation centers, the arena. All of this infrastructure, a lot of it is now quite aged, and a lot of it is requiring some major repairs and renovations, and that's what this budget process is about. So the handout I gave you, the first item is basically waiver process was identified as emergency exit routing. So we're in the design process of that now. We're trying to get the design started, to put forward for potential funding stream to ISC, and then Indigenous Service Canada. That's that word you were saying earlier, Indigenous. So they're the ones that are going to fund this project, ideally when we're set to run with it. The items that are in green are items that we've already got money, we put money aside, we took money from different pots council had, and we got those projects developed. So those are what we call shovel-ready projects. So infrastructure projects, road systems, bridge systems, some water line installation, facilities maintenance, fire alarm stuff, things like that that we know we have to repair, we have to start budgeting for it. So we're setting up that strategy now and identifying with council and with the community, here's some of our priorities and pressure points that we're dealing with on a regular basis. Health systems, education systems, water, wastewater infrastructure, all of that stuff takes money to continue to run and maintain. Some of that system's now like 20 plus years old. And retrofitting, repairing, engineering services that we require to make sure that we do the best possible job for our community, and that the staff are able to do that through the training processes that they need to maintain the licenses and certifications that they have and that infrastructure that we all depend on. So the things that you see in the white are basically projects that we've been tasked with recent And some of them are a couple of years old, but some of them are now starting to take their legs and starting to move forward. And they do take time. On average, council's projects are anywhere from 3 to 5 years from the time we're told to move, time we get the design done, by the time we get money lined up, by the time the project actually happens, and then it's turned over to us as the owners. So several projects, water systems, wastewater operations, elevated storage tanks for here in Kawehno, one in the Snaihne district, to help with fire suppression and emergency water services and such. So these are all things that we've seen and have been challenged with over the years to try and now get on paper so council and federal government has an understanding of what we as a community are trying to aspire to grow so that we can protect our community and infrastructure and increase its longevity. So we're talking about rec centers also, arena updates, infrastructure, home support, clinics, storage expansions. I mean, I understood what Larry was talking to on the arena, but at the same time, the arena is one of our biggest deficit projects, facilities that we have. And recently we put in $460,000 with the refrigeration system upgrades, which was something that needed because of its age, the replacement. But because we read, know where to go to ask for these money, we have an idea what we need, and we could put a good project together through those funding streams out there, we were able to get it funded, $460,000 project. So I have one little project left to do there, but I also have bigger projects that we're trying to do for that facility to increase its usability for the community. So there's lots that we're doing, lots on the go. This is just a snapshot. In general, probably $32, $33 million worth of projects on this list right now. So it's not small things that we're talking about. We're talking the magnitude of several years of funding. Some of the funding council gets too, and I know there was a question on the capital reserves and minor capital. We as an organization have to put money into these projects so that we can initiate it, meaning paying for the design. At the same time, when we get a design, some of the funding streams are out there that will say, what kind of in-kind contribution can you make? And often it's $50,000, $100,000, $150,000. So that minor capital budget that we have, and I'm always telling council, don't spend it, don't spend it, don't spend it, because there's a plan on how we will spend it. And apply it. I'm going to go through this. But I appreciate any effort I can to enlighten you on what we're dealing with and the challenges that we as an organization face, and that we're doing what we can with the funding that we're given. And I think we're doing a pretty good job on the task that we're put forward. So with that, short and sweet, is there any other questions or any questions from anyone? Yes, ma'am.
What does it mean when it says roads and stuff not applied for the transportation? What does that mean?
What happened is, in a lot of our road infrastructure systems built in the late 60s, early 70s, so the ministry standards, New York State DOT type standards, Quebec construction standards, they're all changing. They've all changed, but they've changed to betterment of our operations. So before it used to be maybe put a foot of gravel material in and just pave it and you're done. And there's your road, that's good enough for your community. Now it's get a geotechnical review, tell us what the soils are like, tell us what you need to do to build a base solid so it's going to last you 30 to 50 years versus 10 or 15 before we're having to look at major repair. So not the standard means 1960, 1970 construction, bringing it to 2018, 2019, 2020, depending on what year we actually get funded for. So
Some of these roads are used, right?
They're not new. They're roads that have always been in the area, but I'll just say for example, Sunday Drive, Sunday subdivision, right? Fisherman's Lane. Part of that was a housing development. Let's just put some granulars in, let's get people in, have their house built. Now it's time to really put the road in. So having that design done, design it and build it and construct it so it will last for 30 years instead of every 10 years we're having to do something. That's what that talks to in that context. So a lot of it was makeshift, let's get it in there, we'll fix it later. All right? Anyone else?
Yeah, Joe, that that project that's going on down there, they put $600,000, I think, in building the property for the new band office and everything down in Snaihne. Do you have anything like to do with that? Or
That's one of the projects that I didn't really have much to do with. Now I'm in the acting director's position, understanding that the facility that wanted to get built there was to take off a number of facilities that we have that are old and need to come down in order to increase its usability, increase the floor space, increase the community access to that site. So it was talking to, if I remember right, it was part of justice, post office operation, you know, things like that, conservation, those types of programs, taking them out of the older facilities, Angus Mitchell, 1962 type of thing, you know, 60s construction, admin ones in 1970-ish, you know, admin 3 used to be an old police station, we recycled buildings so many times, it's time to take them offline, put a new facility in, and be able to take that one and cost for those older units, put it in a new facility, and better service the community.
Is that where the band council, all the band members, that said you're going to have your office?
Where? Sorry, where?
No.
The Snaihne admin.
No, that's, can I? So that was supposed to go to a 13,500 square foot facility.
Yeah.
It was gonna house housing and justice. That was the plan. They had put in the soil there to, you know, to bring it down. I can't think of the terms right now. I'm sitting here, I'm kind of rugged. But I need Eric to So anyways, yeah, it was going to be the new Snaihne building. They never, it didn't go anywhere after a certain time. It needs funding. The design is, you know, it's just conceptual design at this point. It's been sitting there for a few years, and that has to come back to the table to find out more, you know, we need more information on it.
It was Department of Justice, Akwesasne Court, Housing, and Hydro-Quebec operations.
Yeah, they're all going down there.
Yeah. Good question. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Any other questions on this presentation?
Some of the guys came up to me and they said that they wanted to dig a hole in the road and make them go around and Snaihne by Whoville, Marshall Oaks, that area. Like you can't even drive there.
That's
a bad area.
number one on the list.
Is that the one?
Wayland Cross Memorial Road reconstruction, and it includes bridge design, and I'm throwing in the Whoville housing subdivision because it makes sense to do it all at the same time. That's actually, we're expecting our first pot of funding now for the design phase to start, and come April 2020, we'll get the second set. So our initial reviews are now to start to do the geotechnical stuff, get an RFP out there, request for proposal for the design engineers that will want to bid on that road reconstruction because it includes the bridge also. So yeah, that's number one on our list right now.
Well, one of the reasons, Joe, I suggested that we're on the Macomber Road North, we looked at it because in front of my house I have the brick wall that runs across. They didn't want to interfere with it when they did the water line. So they ran the water line down the road.
Yeah.
They dug up the road and the buses go down my road. And I'm telling you, you got probably 1 or 2 foot deep.
No, I agree with what you're telling me. I understand what you're talking to in the context of a road that meets standard. One of the questions that was asked earlier, us as MCA, in good standard practice, good engineering practice, is to build a road system that's at least 66 feet wide, ditch to ditch.
Yeah.
So it takes care of the drainage systems, it takes care of sewage infrastructure, water infrastructure, Bell Canada, hydro, maybe fiber optics, gives you that opportunity to put that in. A lot of the roads that we see today are less than that, substantial. In some cases, we're 20-foot easement that will turn to a road, and that's what we're trying to deal with to try and fix them better. But at the same time, when we talk to the landowners, we say we need to have this much more room to make this road better. If we're off the road now, so we can only go so far. And it could be the first person at the front of the road says no, but everybody else is saying yes, but until everybody says yes, we can't do anything. So yeah, it's a sticking point for us.
Yeah.
Joe, can you give Dave some clarification too, because he keeps mentioning that the water line is running on, and you know that roadway, and it's actually running on the side.
Yeah, my understanding, the road system that you're talking, any water system that we put in today is going to be at the edge of the road system or in the bottom of the ditch if that ditch is there. And that's only because in the winter, certain road construction, the frost penetration gets pushed further and further down into it. And if the water line's in the center of the road, then the chances of it freezing and those cold, crazy winter nights are there. So it's generally off to the side of the road, either right at the very edge of where the pavement is if we've got minimal road allowance, or in the bottom of the ditch if we have the ditch system. Does that help you?
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Francis on the Path Road project priorities over the next little while? Okay. Thank you very much, and my apologies for keeping you so long.
40 people.
Well, I take it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So we're, as indicated earlier in the meeting, the introduction to the Akwesasne membership board was conflicting on the schedule. We've been trying to get some of our boards and committees and commissions to come to the general meeting just to put a face to a name. We will try again at the next general meeting in January to make that happen. So we do have council roundtable updates, but I do want to say that every member of council has submitted a written report to you in the packages in the back. So those we will use for this afternoon's roundtable. There's an opportunity for members of council to report on the last month's work. They have been provided to you in writing. So we're going to now deal with the resolution for the acceptance of meeting minutes from the last general meeting. So I want to, I'll read the resolution to accept and approve the attached general meeting minutes of September 26, 2019. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Joel, second by Carolyn. Discussion on the resolution. Questions when called on resolution. All in favor? Any against? None against. Carried. So I just want to make an announcement that we will be having the community dinners again, this in every district, this coming December. So December 5th will be the Kentenhkó community dinner. December 12th will be the Snaihne one, and here in Kawehno it will be December 18th. You're welcome to attend any and all of those dinners. They will be in each respective recreation centers. There will be no general meeting for December, which is pretty traditional. Our next one will be January in St. Regis, so unfortunately the last one was canceled, so Snaihne will see one in February. So that is it for our general meeting this afternoon. Yes?
Can you announce the MCA closures for December? The 26th, 27th, 30th, and 31st?
Okay. So the MCA will be closing between the Christmas holiday and New Year's holiday, the days in between from Christmas all the way up to the day after New Year's. So. Yes. Oh yes, and don't forget the heating assistance program. The deadline is in a couple of weeks. You need to apply. Today we did have it happening as well at the Kentenhkó Arena for community members that are able to make it during the week. So, on behalf of council, I want to thank everybody for coming out to the general meeting today, this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you